Hey, what's up, guys? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. And I am actually talking with a friend of mine who is who's really good in the blockchain area. I know a lot of you have expressed some interest in becoming blockchain developers, learning how to really increase your income. This is one of the really hot areas that you can really make a lot of money. This really reminds me of, just the whole quant thing when the ultra fast trading was starting to happen and people were making, developers were making ridiculous salaries, making a huge amount of money. So there's a big opportunity here to get into this. So I wanted to, introduce you guys to Gregory from DAP University. So welcome, Gregory.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, John. I'm excited to chat with your audience today.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been quite a journey we've had over the last year and a half or so, as you've been, building up everything and just the success that you've had. So yeah, so it's cool to go full circle and to actually have you on Simple Programmer and to to be able to interview you as a success story too. So.
Yeah, totally. It's awesome. I'm excited to be here and to be kind of part of that, seeing that full circle. John has been instrumental in making this happen and kind of helping build this resource for people who want to become blockchain developers. So I'm happy to share it with you guys and kind of let you know what's happening right now in the blockchain space because, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's been, and it's funny because a lot of people are, people are going crazy about investing in blockchain. But that's, it's I think we both have the same opinion that that's not really where the money is at. The money is at being a developer, being someone who's working in this technology. So tell me a little bit what's going on with that. Like what is happening? Why is this such a good place to be right now?
Yeah, totally. I think you're spot on. If you're a developer, you already have a huge leg up for most people who kind of want to get into cryptocurrency and have no technical skills, right? I mean, markets are extremely hard to time. This is financial speculation. It's not really investing. And your strongest asset are going to be your technical skills. And you've got a huge leg up on that if you're already a developer, right? It's one of the best ways to make money over the long term. And you can make higher, you can basically earn more money as a blockchain developer compared to other fields. And if you want to fact check me on that, you can look at the report that Hired.com put out, their 2019 State of Software Engineering report. It's not about blockchain. It's not about it's not an ICO block out there, trying to shill cryptocurrency projects or anything like that. It's like Hired.com who collects all the data from their sort of matching service. And yeah, they talk about blockchain being one of the hottest skills in tech right now.
So what could we expect? Like, what could someone expect to make? What's kind of the ranges that you're seeing for blockchain developers?
Yeah, totally. So, I'll start up, the high end to kind of give you, I like to start there. So if you live in a place like San Francisco, right, you could earn, I think when I saw the report last, it was an average of $155,000 per year. And that's when the report was published. But you can actually get on Hired.com and look at the income statistics for your own area, right? And the stats are changing over time. I think the last time I checked, it was even higher than that. So you can click around in different cities and see what your average would be. But I put it this way. It's going to be a lot easier for you to earn a six-figure income in blockchain maybe than other areas. Because even if you're junior in blockchain, almost everybody's junior in blockchain who gets started because the field's so new.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. What's kind of the highest that you've ever heard of someone doing? Because I know it caps out for a lot of development positions, but I remember when the whole quant and financial, I mean, even still in New York, you can still find jobs that are extremely, if you're really really good in the statistical modeling of options trading and stuff like that, you can make a lot of money. So what do you think, or what have you seen for blockchain?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I've seen, job listings in the 250K plus range. And that's just for, we're going to hire you and you're going to be sort of in our company. As far as freelancers go, I hear about people charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour, especially if they're really good. I personally charge more on a weekly kind of basis. And actually with John's help, I got to the point where I kind of crafted a service where I could deliver a lot of value really fast. And I was able to charge $20,000 for about 1 week of work.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, good job on that, by the way. But yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty cool. You have to, definitely have the talent to be able to pull off something like that. But I think one of the things that was really cool, and especially with your business, was that we're talking about how there's a lot of people that need blockchain developers. They need your services, especially some of the companies that are trying to do ICOs, and so they're willing to pay a lot of money to someone who can do that. And there's not that many people that they can really turn to that they can be able to deliver what they need. So
yeah, totally. And it's a classic supply and demand problem. What I mean? There's all these kind of gold miners who are coming in, trying to prospect and create new businesses, and they need technical talent in order to get these businesses off the ground. And it's not even just startups, like big institutional money is getting into this. Like you can go check out, I believe Forbes put out a report about the top $50 billion companies that are using Ethereum for their businesses looking into it. Deloitte put out a survey about all these companies that are researching blockchain and what they're kind of using. So yeah, it's a classic supply and demand problem, and that's really what's driving the price of compensation for developers. There's and this trend is I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, for sure. I mean, you would say there's probably a pretty big shortage of blockchain developers in general then?
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this statistic yet, but on the hired.com report that I mentioned earlier, I can't remember if I said this or not yet, but the demand for blockchain developers in that 2019 State of the Software Engineering report was the blockchain was growing at 517% year over year.
Wow. Yeah. That's insane. That's like a ridiculous growth. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So there's definitely going to be a problem where there's not going to be enough developers to fill those. I'm sure even now there's not enough to fill the slots. So this would be something that someone, if you're starting out, would be good to get into, because there you go. Like this is like a very lucrative field, and you're going to be able to be hired a lot easier. Or if you're even just a mid-level or senior developer and you're looking for something that's going to pay you more money or something that's exciting and fun to work in, pretty easy to transition into this, I would say, right?
Yeah, totally. I think so, for sure. I mean, you're going to have a huge leg up if you have really strong technical skills. I mean, working with blockchain is a big paradigm shift, and you kind of have to really learn about how that works. But that's kind of one of the reasons I, have built this resource, DApp University, and my YouTube channel, my website, is to help people, kind of cross that gap and overcome that learning curve in hopefully a pretty sensible way.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm going to ask you about next, because that's what I'm curious about. In fact, guys, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but Gregory has a course, basically not even a course, really a boot camp on how to become a blockchain developer, which we'll have a link below if you can't wait and you need to get a hold of it now. But we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But yeah, so let's talk about how someone can do this, because I think that's one of those things that stops a lot of people is, I think a lot of people that I've talked to, a lot of developers have said, well, yeah, that sounds great, and blockchain sounds great, and I'd like to make a lot of money, obviously, but it also seems hard, and I don't know how to even, like, how would you even go about becoming a block? It's I think it's more obvious to say, like, okay, I'm going to become a Python developer. Okay, well, here I can just take these tutorials, I can learn Python. How does someone even begin to get started to become a blockchain developer?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I can tell you just from my experience, because I went through all of this, right? When I started learning blockchain, there were barely any resources online about how to get started. And anyone that you could find was like so outdated because it moves so fast. You know what I mean? And that was one of the reasons I saw a massive opportunity to create DApp University, was like, there were clearly people that were searching this out, wanted to get on this train, and wanted to catch this massive trend, right? And when I created it, I put out that first video, and it was just like people they flocked to it. So I mean, the video did well. I thought people received it well. At least were able to get use out of it, utility, right? To learn that. So I've kind of seen, what are the pain points. I'll be perfectly honest. It's hard. It's hard to get started. It's sort of like anything else. You move into new technology and there's sort of this brain cramp that you get because especially if you're experienced with tech already, you sort of have a lot of knowledge that you take for granted and all this context that makes it somewhat more comfortable. And then when you switch something that does not work the same way, learning a new programming language, for example, there's always a little bit of a context switch that's painful. But I've tried to take really like common use cases and sort of create blockchain versions of them so that that's easier for you to make that transition. All right. So like some of the more full stack tutorials that you're used to doing, we just sort of port those over to blockchain to begin with. That's not necessarily the best use case for blockchain long term, right? You want to graduate beyond that to like build, really good use cases for blockchain. But that's one way that I've tried to help people get started. Is to kind of tackle some of the use cases you're familiar with to show you how that would work on the blockchain.
Okay, I see. So that makes sense because when I did a lot of Pluralsight courses. I used to have one app that I used to create in almost all the courses called Protein Tracker, which is a real simple app with the user interface that lets you track how many grams of protein you ate per day. Just had real simple functionality. But I put it in I did different programming languages, different frameworks, and I implemented it in all those because I figured that people that had watched my other courses were familiar with it, and then they could make that transition. They could say, oh, okay, this is the paradigm for this particular programming language or environment, and this is how we do it there. Is that kind of similar thing that you've taken some of these simple things that people already understand? They've already implemented these things in other languages and in technologies, and now, okay, this is what it looks like in blockchain.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a really great way to get started, right? At the end of the day, you want to use the tool for what it's really designed to do. Right. And so you kind of have to move out of some of those use cases to use the blockchain for what it's supposed to do. But I think it's a really great way to get started and just sort of learn the ABCs and the fundamentals. Another way that I tell people to help get started is just use the blockchain. Like before you start even getting into code, right? Like I tell people, it's not going to hurt you to buy $5 worth of cryptocurrency and like send it to a wallet or something like that. Just learn to, it's less than the price of a cup of coffee. Don't risk, a great amount of money doing this. Or if you don't want to spend any money, like there are blockchain test networks that you can use and just get like fake cryptocurrency and start just like, sending it around.
I think the concept of fake cryptocurrency is pretty funny actually, because you have something that is technically just like fake, right? Like it's been invented, but then you've got a fake of a fake.
That's right. Yeah. It's a little comical when you think about it. But so, quick explanation of why those things exist in the first place. So like, the primary blockchain that I focus on is Ethereum. Yeah. And, so like when you run a test network, it's a way for you to like, basically see how your app would work on a real blockchain, not just like a test one that you create. Right. And Ethereum, you always have to pay gas fees whenever you like deploy smart contracts to the network and like basically hook your app up. So you have to have like some money to do it. And it's like fake money of fake money.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay. So if someone learns, starts off by actually using it, that makes a lot of sense. And then I like the idea that you've got the paradigms that they already understand, these apps. But, one thing that I really liked that when we were talking about your bootcamp was that you actually teach people how to build an actual trading network, or what do you call it? Like a platform, like a trading platform to actually trade crypto, which seems like a very complex thing. Like, that's like, it seems like it would take like teams of hundreds of developers to create, and that's very practical. I think that's like you're saying. Tell me a little bit more about that. Is that kind of like the master project that's great?
Yeah, totally. So inside my blockchain developer bootcamp, we have a section where I teach a lot of the fundamentals, but then we have our Capstone project, and that's really where your learning all comes together, right? And that's exactly what we build in the Capstone project. Is I call it a real world project, a real world cryptocurrency exchange that actually runs on the blockchain. You build all the smart contracts to trade the cryptocurrencies. You build out all this client-side application to actually talk to it, and it runs. You can deploy it to a test network, start trading real-world cryptocurrencies, all that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I think that's something that really appealed to me, was this idea that you're actually going to learn something that you could. I mean, really, like, I mean, if you think about it, if you are applying for a job as a blockchain developer, I think most of the other developers that are applying are like, hey, yeah, I know blockchain, or maybe they've worked on some small bit of code for blockchain, or they've, you know, integrated blockchain payment processing into their application for some company they work for. But I think when you go in there and you're like, yeah, I created a platform to trade blockchain. I think that's like, you know, whether or not, it doesn't even matter that you've, you know, done this as a project that you know, you haven't necessarily deployed in the real world, but just the fact that, like, the amount of credibility I think that gives someone, that's what I was most excited about. Is it's like, okay, that's like, I mean, which guy are you going to hire? The guy that, like, you know, made it so that this, you know, pizza restaurant you could order with Bitcoin and accepted Bitcoin payments, or a guy that actually implemented a full on, you know, trading platform, right? So
yeah, totally. And that's another reason that I went with that as the project for the capstone. And, you know, part of the boot camp is this focus on sort of marketing yourself as a blockchain developer.
yeah.
Might that sound familiar?
Yeah.
But no, I think, you know, your audience is really aware of how critical it is to market yourself, and, you know, the different things you can do to stack the deck in your favor. And this is definitely something to have a real world project that is sophisticated. And I teach you how to do it step by step.
Nice. Okay. So, you know, one thing I think that would be, that I've been I think people will be curious about, would be kind of your story of just coming into all of this. How did you even become, you know, like you said, I think you talked a little bit about it, but like what even got you into becoming a blockchain developer? And then what's the success that you've personally seen? I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to create educational sites on blockchain development, but you know, the nice thing about you is that you're a practitioner as well, because you actually are a freelancer doing freelance work on the blockchain as well as teaching other people. But what's your story? How did you actually come into this? And then where did it take you?
Sure. Yeah, totally. So, you know, I got into blockchain like a lot of other people. I mean, I was watching cryptocurrency prices move. I was like, wow, like that got my attention. You know, I mean, when you see something go up that fast, and, you know, hearing all these people making all this kind of money about if you bought Bitcoin and when it first came out, how rich you'd be today. And I think that gets a lot of people's attention, and there's no shame in that. I mean, it's pretty spectacular. But that wasn't what kept me around necessarily. Right. That's what sort of hooked me in. And then I wanted to learn about the actual technology. I was like, how does this work? You know, being a developer and being analytical, and it's sort of like, I don't see how this happened. So sort of breaking that problem down farther and farther, it got me a lot closer to the tech. And when I saw what the tech could do, and also realized that this was a trend, and, you know, trends are something that I sort of, really catch my eye. And so I thought to myself, like, you know, what if I could have gone back in time and been one of the world's first web developers, right? How exciting that would have been. And it's like, well, I sort of have this chance to be like one of the world's first blockchain developers. And that was honestly what got me coding, got me building stuff. From there, I realized this massive opportunity to create educational resources, because I was out there learning the hard way on my own, like putting things together, trying to read documentation that was out of date, maybe finding a blog post here and there that had some value to it, but ultimately was also out of date. And it was just, gosh, it was the Wild West. It still kind of is the Wild West, but that's one of the things I really like about Dapp University. Hopefully it's an oasis in this desert of people trying to find information about how to do it. I've at least got a lot of positive response back from people who got a lot out of it. So that's how I got started. That's how I, you know, kind of got started with Dapp University. As far as working professionally as a freelancer, I, you know, kind of just started hustling at the beginning. I'd had some freelance experience in the past, and, you know, kind of, I knew how to just like hustle and kind of just get started. You know, it may be humbling to start making a little bit less than what you were on something else, just to get that experience really quickly. But as soon as you get that experience, just started raising the prices up. And then, you know, as I started creating content out there, people started reaching out to me
Exactly
for freelancing. And that, you know, has taken me to build, some pretty high paying stuff. Like I talked about that service where I was able to charge 20,000 and for about a week of work. And also, there's all kinds of stuff. I've gotten to work with ICO projects, people who are trying to raise $100 million on the blockchain, all that kind of stuff by creating their own cryptocurrencies, getting them listed on cryptocurrency exchanges and all that. It's pretty nuts.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an amazing story. Like to see that, and it's cool to see someone that's actually done it, actually gone through this, and that you just started off just being curious about cryptocurrency, and then becoming one of the first developers. I think that's still here's a big question: is this still, the question everyone always asks is it too late, right? Is the gold rush already over, or is it still the early, like you can still become one of the first, blockchain developers?
Short answer, no, it is not. You have not missed the boat. I mean, Have you missed the boat to buy Bitcoin for $1? Yes. But, as far as like getting into the tech, I mean, it's still early. Like there's still a lot of work to be done. Like I talked about how this industry is growing, and honestly, like it's sort of like some of these businesses who come in second to market are a little more successful than the ones who come in first to market.
Yeah.
You can learn from other people's mistakes as a blockchain developer, and like start to get tools as they're a little more mature, and your experience of onboarding might be a little better.
Yeah. That's always been the Microsoft strategy, right? Is they come in second and then, wait for the first movers and they make the product better afterwards. So yeah. Okay, so that's definitely a good opportunity. And what's the time frame? Like, how could someone go? Well, what do they need to know ahead of time in order to become a blockchain developer, or do they need to know anything?
Right.
And then how long does it take them?
Right. So I've changed my opinion on this a little bit.
Okay.
Honestly, since I've been working with this, initially, you kind of have to break it down the spectrum of somebody who knows nothing about programming at all. Mm-hmm. Like they don't even know how to like edit a text file with a text editor, right? Up to somebody who's like basically a senior developer and just wants to try out a new field, right?
Right.
So to the senior developer who just wants to try out a new field, I mean, they could probably be competent in a month or less. You know what I mean?
Really?
Especially I think so. Yeah, I think so. If they're really good, right? I mean, if and that's if you're going for it. But if you want to, give yourself a more casual timeline, you need several months. For somebody who's brand new, at first, like I would say, hey, go learn a little bit of JavaScript, go learn a little bit of this before you jump into this. But I've changed my opinion on this, where if you know that blockchain is what you want to do, just go learn the thing you want to do and learn all the other pieces that you need to know to do that task, and fill in those gaps as you go.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I like that approach for learning. I feel like it's easier to learn something when you have a purpose as well, right? When you know what it is, as opposed to like, I think a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, I need to learn JavaScript. And then it's like, well, what are you trying to build? Why?
Right.
And then, so if you don't have like the purpose of what you're trying to build, it's a huge, I mean, what are you going to learn all of JavaScript? Yeah. Okay. You can do it for sure, but it's going to take you a long time. Whereas if it's like, okay, well, I need to learn these specific things, like because I'm doing blockchain development and this is what I need to be able to know how to do, then it changes that scope to a much more narrow scope, and you retain it better because you actually know why you're doing it.
Yeah. So I would say, honestly, like if you're in that position, you're a rank beginner and you want to just become productive in someone's pipeline, I would say the learning curve is about the same as it would be for just becoming a full stack developer from scratch. You know what I mean? So whatever timeline you would estimate for yourself to do that, I would assume the same for blockchain, right? And that is, and that's if you, kind of go into a company and you're using you have someone that's kind of helping manage you, and you're able to just be sort of a piece of their pipeline and very focused and very specialized as a beginner, which is probably what you're going to do if you're a junior developer and you get your first job anyway.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So what now, someone who becomes a blockchain developer, what kind of things can they do to make sure that they're actually highly paid, that they're going to make a lot of money as a blockchain developer? Or does it not matter? Like, is it just you're going to make a lot of money if you just have this skill set?
Well, I think on average, if you just have the skill set, you're going to make more than other developers.
Right.
But you can certainly optimize that. And I think the optimizations look pretty similar to what you would do in other fields. But I'll just throw some of those at you right now. So like, I mentioned, I think at the beginning of the episode that, the average San Francisco developer is making like $155,000 per year. So one thing is you don't necessarily have to live in San Francisco to work in San Francisco, you know, and especially for blockchain, it's a highly remote workforce because not everybody can, reach their arm out and find a blockchain developer. Not everybody can find one down the street who can come into their office. So the source of income is global. And you're talking about an industry that's lush with capital, especially people who have raised massive amounts of money through ICOs and all that kind of stuff, venture capital as well. So that's what I would say is like, I've heard John talk about this a lot about, basically don't apply for one job, apply for 10 jobs. Well, it gets a lot easier to do that when you can apply like all over the world.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So if you're looking for a job, that's what I would say, is don't just rely on one person, like really pit them against each other and let them fight for your skills because they're going to do it. I mean, your skills are going to be in demand.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And so, yeah, so there's nothing really specifically that they need to do in order to increase their earnings as a blockchain developer, just by virtue of being a blockchain developer and applying for, at a global scale. That's would you say is the best thing?
I would say so. Yeah. I don't think there's necessarily anything magical about the blockchain. I mean, just like everything else, having a good portfolio, having, something that shows that you're a human that people connect with, having video, even like this, you don't have to go start out some crazy blog necessarily if you don't want to, but even something where people, personalizing your outreach to companies is a huge factor. And that's going to be true of any tech, but also true for blockchain.
Yeah. That definitely makes sense. Okay. So what do you cover in the boot camp? Like, how do you take people through?
Yeah.
What's kind of the breakdown of this? I think a lot of people will probably be interested in signing up for it.
Yeah. So the boot camp is designed to start off assuming that you know nothing or very little about blockchain, but then we quickly move to like giving you the skills that you need to be a blockchain developer. So it's true bootcamp fashion. Like we move, kind of fast, but the outcome is that, I mean, you really have the knowledge and the skills to do what you need to do and become highly paid. So I take you through a lot of the conceptual material, like, just basics, like what is a blockchain? How does it work? How do you get started? And, how does Ethereum work? How do tokens work? How do you set up your development environment? How do you, install MetaMask to interact with decentralized applications and stuff like that? All of the real basics, right? Just to get started. But people who already know all that stuff are quickly going to get challenged once we get into the capstone. And that's where the rubber really meets the road. And, we flesh out the skills to where they're robust and viable for you to get hired.
Okay. So you take them pretty much from the beginning of not even really knowing a lot about blockchain to that capstone project at the end, where they're getting everything they need along the way in order to be able to actually build this trading platform.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. The capstone is where we build the cryptocurrency exchange. And we go in depth. It goes way beyond any other tutorials that I've put out there on the web. Okay.
And how long would it take someone to complete this?
Yeah, I've got this question a lot. I've seen people do it pretty fast, like in, a month or less. People who have experience. I would budget longer, especially if you're starting from square one. Maybe give yourself a 6 to 12 week timeline if you want to be, we're learning at a comfortable pace. It really just depends on how aggressive you want to be. Theoretically, you can do it as fast as possible. Theoretically, I mean, you have unlimited lifetime access to it whenever you join. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, if you're interested in signing up, definitely check it out. We'll have some promotion on this at the time of this video. So there'll be a link should be one up in the cards, but there'll also be a link in the description where you can sign up for the blockchain developer bootcamp and become a blockchain developer. This is something that if you've been sitting on and you've been waiting and you've been trying to I get so many emails from you guys that are like, oh, I'm trying to become a developer, and you've been doing this for 3 years. Well, okay, here's an actual fast path plan that's not just going to get you to become a developer, but is going to get you to be in one of the best fields that you could be right now, which is also an interesting, exciting field as well. So that's you got to take the steps. You got to take the action. So go check it out, and sign up if you want to really increase your income and become a blockchain developer. Because and take it from me, like Gregory is the guy to teach you. He knows his stuff inside and out. I mean, he just focuses. His entire business is built around teaching people blockchain and to become blockchain developers. So, all right. So one of the things I was gonna ask about as far as blockchain is what are the so what do you teach as far as language? Because I think some people are going to be wondering about what programming language do they need to know. And what if you're teaching a different programming language than the one that they know? Is that going to be a problem, right? What's the issue? Because we haven't really talked about the technology.
Sure. So inside the bootcamp, I teach you to build, full stack blockchain application. All right. So that includes writing smart contracts for the blockchain, and also includes writing, a client-side web app that talks to this, so that people can actually use it. All right. So that's 2 different technologies and 2 different programming languages. All right. So I'll start with the blockchain side of things.
Okay.
I teach Ethereum in the bootcamp, and Ethereum, for their smart contracts, they write it in a language called Solidity. Okay. So I assume that you know nothing about Solidity when we join the bootcamp.
Right.
So I teach you the basics of the language. You don't have to know anything about it. I teach you, and you learn all the features of it as you build the project. So for the client-side application, it's built in JavaScript. I teach you how to build the front end in React.js. You don't have to know React.js in order to follow along, but any knowledge that you have prior to that or about JavaScript is certainly going to benefit you.
Okay. And so if someone is coming from a different development environment or background, let's say they're a C developer or something, that they don't know JavaScript or anything like that, they're still going to be able to follow along with the course? Yeah,
totally. I've had people from all different backgrounds come in and have lots of good success stories from people coming from all over the place to learn blockchain. Like I said, if you really want to learn blockchain, focus on what you want to do, and I think this is a really great path forward to specialize in getting the skills you need to know to build. To build this.
Okay, cool. And what kind of jobs are out there? Like, what kind of things do blockchain developers do?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a wide spectrum, right? So we're talking about basically you can start working for a company that's trying to like a big company who's trying to innovate with blockchain solutions, right? Where they're trying to really be speculative, and they have the ability to do that. Where they're trying to do I'll list out some of the use cases that we're trying to solve with blockchain, and these are the kinds of things they're doing. So supply chain, for example, basically where people are trying to prove that something moved through the supply chain and that its history, and that's essentially stored on the blockchain. So it's stored in this public way that people can verify. Companies that don't trust each other can verify that this product moved through the supply chain. It got checked off here, right? So that's one big use case. Anything financial is a big use case. I just got off the phone with another project where they're building basically decentralized, which is a buzzword in blockchain, which basically just means it doesn't belong to anybody. A decentralized way to manage funds on the blockchain, to where if you want to have a fund that has a certain amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies all locked in together, they can do it on the blockchain to where you don't have someone else managing this for you. So there's all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of great reports. I can even maybe link to them in the description or something like that, where these massive use cases that people are trying to tackle with blockchain. And these are the kinds of companies you're going to end up working for. It's just like anything else. Also, what does it mean to be a web developer? You could work on the protocol, or you could build web apps, or you could build lots of different stuff. It's like, it sort of means a lot of different stuff. But what I've tried to do at the bootcamp is to give you the fundamentals and also viable skills to where, you could go off in any of these different directions to kind of work for one of these companies that are trying to build developer tools, to build enterprise software, to build, all kinds of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. That makes sense. Yeah. That seems like there's a pretty wide level of application. There's probably going to be even more and more adoption as this is the way to do. I mean, I guess you could look at every single thing that we do contracts and record like histories of things like property, real estate, all of that stuff. Like we record things, and right now we have like these big books that we look at, right? It's like when you buy a piece of real estate, it becomes official once it's recorded, and they have literally these big ass books that they look through and find the actual document. And that's the proof of it, is that, and it's the same thing, right? It's like they look at like a property where what was recorded, like the order of the things that were recorded to determine what the property rights are. So yeah, I can imagine that's going to move to the blockchain at some point.
Yep. Yeah. There's already people trying to do it. I interviewed somebody on my YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago they're already doing like small land contracts in California with blockchain.
Nice. Okay, cool. So, all right, we should probably wrap things up here, but like I said, guys, if you want to get in, make sure you do it now, and just click one of the links there. And one last thing I want to ask you, Gregory, is what's your biggest case for why someone should become a blockchain developer and to do it now? Like, what's the biggest compelling reason?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about being on the ground floor of a trend. If I could go back in time and become one of the world's first web developers, or fill in the blank, right? It's such an exciting ride from that point forward. And that means higher pay down the road. And now, because of the supply and demand problem, and also just getting that satisfaction of like, I'm here early, I'm one of the first. And, you get to tell your, maybe your kids one day, or your grandkids, or something like that. It's just, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because, if you think about in the future, like, the foundation of a lot of stuff is going to be built off of this, and to be able to be part of that historically, I think is a pretty cool thing. It's like being one of the first web developers, or one of the first people working on computers in general back in the day, or the internet. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Gregory, and congratulations on all the success with this. And I know that you did a launch of this bootcamp on your site initially to your audience, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing to see how many people that the success, and then to see your success with this. So
yeah,
I think this is just another good indicator just too of how popular and how great this sector is to get involved in. So
yeah, well, couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, well, glad to help. And all right, guys, go sign up. Before you miss this opportunity. This is one of those ones where I wish I would have jumped on. Well, obviously, everyone wants to jump on the Bitcoin, but I've hit these as a developer. I remember when the first web apps were being created, right? And I missed that one. And in when the first app store came out, and I missed that one. And it's like, in the machine learning, right? I missed that one. And now it's like, this one is the opportunity. Obviously, I'm not writing code myself anymore, but I would be jumping all over this to get in at this point if I could. So, all right, Gregory, thanks a lot, and talk to you guys later.
All right, see ya.